welcome this session. Alexandra Klimenko will be with us. She is the founder and CEO of Soft Skill Lab. She worked in IT industry all her life, has 12 years of experience leading IT teams. She managed teams for global projects, Deloitte, Hans, SaaS, and for startups starting from the seed stage. She built a school of negotiation for managers in Russia and published a book on conflict resolution. Her presentation about skills that are needed to bridge the gaps in multicultural teams, and she promotes that apart from discussing skills, there will be practical tools applicable for different cultural scenarios. Welcome, and I'm leaving like. mm,
Hello, Sevda. Hello, everyone. I'm so
mm,
excited to be here. I'm so ready to talk to you about skills for global communication. For those of you who are just joining, just like a quick recap, so that you know that I'm someone who a little bit knows of what she talks about. I have a lot of experience leading IT teams with a very, very different backgrounds, and here is my link to LinkedIn, so you can scan and also join me on LinkedIn to stay in touch. And we will actually, yes, today talk about this different skills. The skills will not be a surprise for you, but I hope that the instruments that I bring to you and the examples that I bring to you will be something to ponder about, to think about, and to reflect on how you apply them in real life scenarios. So uh, before before we start, just a little bit for you to know like why I just wanted to talk about this is that because I worked a lot with multicultural teams, and I've seen it as a trend for about 10 years now that it's becoming more and more evident, and we have a lot of multicultural teams, and there is a lot of conflicts in these teams, as well as necessity to communicate with each other. And obviously it's much more difficult when you don't know the person, you don't know the cultural upbringing of the person who you have near you, like the words are different, the customs are different, and always when we have this unknown factor in our communication, it consumes the time and the energy, and we would really like to have much more efficient flow of what we do. And let's just, I hope we can have that all together. So obviously, it will be no surprise that the first skill I want to talk about is emotional intelligence. And before we go into the specifics, I want to give you a question. So I would like to show the, oh, this is a poll. Actually, probably I will show you the question. So I suggest you can tell me, what do you think about your teammates' EQ? Your teammates are not here, so they will not know, even if you say that the EQ is zero, emotional intelligence as an EQ. Uh, Here are the questions you can I can ask you to help you determine what would you think about your teammates EQ. It's like, uh, do you see them as pros, as like really good with dealing with complex feelings like stress, anxiety, sadness, loss, like the project didn't go through, the client canceled, we didn't reach the goal that we wanted? Are they good at dealing with this and like providing support for the whole team, or at least for themselves? The other one is like, for example, if they are bored, if they are not noticed and not motivated externally, can they repeatedly do the best job? And are they good at recognizing what is going on with themselves in their emotions? If they're tired, if they're stressed, what is their state of mind? Uh, are they like pros and good at that? And thinking about that a little bit can help you determine if you would say that uh, this is a good level of EQ in your team. Uh, the only idea for me is to see. Oh, I see that someone answers that it's like 4, 6, so like moderate. So that's actually a good answer. It's much better than 0. Let's say that. But I don't see like 7 to 10, which would be excellent, which would be at least very good. So obviously there is a room to grow. So today I hope you'll find something to grow your own emotional intelligence and hopefully to help your team to grow their emotional intelligence. For that, for that purpose, you can still answer. And for that purpose, I would like you to meet Joe. This is like a collective figure of a person. Probably you saw this person, probably you ever encountered this person. This is a stakeholder and partner in building whatever you are doing, like whatever project you have. This is your stakeholder and partner and someone who regularly communicates with you on this regular basis. And well, there is a situation with Joe. Let's see what the situation is. Let's say you present some work in progress. So this is not a complete part of what you do, like not the complete and the final touch, not the final presentation, but you want to keep it clear. You want to communicate as much as possible because it's important. So you present some work in progress and ask for some feedback. And this is a not so pleasant reaction you can have at returns. Maybe you had this at your company, maybe you didn't. I will have another poll just in a second. So, like, imagine something in the long lines of, what am I supposed to do with that? Like, what did you bring me? What am I supposed to do with that? It's not what I asked for. So I try to reenact it as I remember it, and I have another poll for you. So let's try to analyze what were your thoughts. What was the first thought at this time? What would be the leading thought of you going forward dealing with this situation? Alternatively, if you're still just too good, you still can say, like, what would be a thought of your colleague, of your teammate? Like, since we're thinking about you as a whole team, leading to the like a multicultural team, leading to the actual result of the project. That means that probably it's important to see what would be their reactions. Oh, I see that you say that it's like not optimal, but it can happen if a person is under pressure. So like we don't like it, but we understand that this might be a reaction a person has. Okay, so maybe others like holding their thoughts and thinking about what else would that be. Okay, so actually, if you think that this is absolutely impossible in your scenario, in your company. Like sometimes I had answers like, this person should be fired just for saying that. Or sometimes on the opposite side of the spectrum, I heard that what this is a typical behavior of a boss, of some person who is in charge, or even some people who think that they're better experts than communicators and like they are only paid to do that. So I'm really glad that you say that you see that it's something that happens under stress. So a good part of emotional intelligence is recognizing the situations where you or other person actually perform under stress, and this may hinder your performance. This may change the way you do things. Like you wouldn't do that, you do more, you do it better if you were not stressed or under pressure or uh, with anxiety or something like that. However, uh, it's one thing to recognize this, it's another thing what to do, especially with when we're thinking about multicultural teams where you constantly have a little bit of anxiety of saying the thing that is right for you but wrong for other country and other environment. And this is what I always experience with people, like when they don't know each other well in multicultural teams, they are very much more fearful of to say or do the wrong thing, especially when they're already under pressure altogether, right? So I can see We already did that. I can see that you recognize the situation, and which is great. Uh, Probably you also already know that trying to reason logically or ignore the fact that this is happening under pressure is not something you want to do. When you apply emotional intelligence in a cases like this, you would really like to have this opportunity to take it and use it to build more trust with the person. Because if you go past the emotions, if you ignore them, if you would say that, oh, this person should be fired because he or she said so, or if you just ignore the behavior of the person and will reason logically with the person who is a kind of a different emotional state, uh, you might get a result that you want to, like you might reason with him and argue with the Joe to make him understand that that was actually not a very not something like he would actually do or say when he understands the situation, when he understands that this is not something that's a project in its final stage. It's just some work in progress. So how would we take this part and make it a stepping stone for the better emotional and human connection between you and Joe with the multicultural aspect in mind? Uh, so the first part of answer is very simple, and you probably already know it. And this is labeling of emotions. And this is where you uh, take a use of words meaning emotion, like specific anger, sadness, unhappy, concerned, frustrated, etc. You can see examples on the slide. And you put them in your communication, like you put them into your speech, you use them. You sort of remind the other person what is happening with them, and the most important part that is for the multicultural teams or the teams when there's like a couple of cultures is to find what are the labels of emotions that your culture and the cultures around you would recognize. I've heard a ton of cases where emotional labeling by itself works, but some specific labels do not work. For example, I've had a baffling case where a client told me that when he tried to ask his coworkers, like, "Are you guys tired from this meeting?" It was a very stressful and tiring meeting. They said, "We are here to work and get results, so we do not tire." Like this is not in our nature. We do not tire. And they were very proud in saying so. And he was baffled because like, obviously people were drained, they were tired, they were exhausted. So the next time he wanted to use empathy, to use this emotional labeling tool, he actually used something different. I would not speak it on air, but let's say it was not something that you would say, like it was swearing. So he sweared a little. He chose a word which was not correct, but still showed some emotion. Probably in your native language, there are a number of such words. Yeah, obviously you can say in English, but I'm not going to say it on air. And that worked like a charm. So he said that after that he had a response that showed that people saw that he cared, and they started pouring the problems that they had, the frustration that they had. And among all of that information, he actually found the real information that he was looking for. He found what were the problems that they did not voice during the meetings. He found their emotional state and how well can they perform. And he was able to help them to go through all that to the better results. So the most important part of this labeling emotion technique is find the labels that your culture or company would recognize. And the funny thing about the culture and company, like we're talking about multicultural teams, and I'm often asked about how to solve conflicts in a multicultural team, because the idea is that in a multicultural team there are much more conflicts than in a normal team. And this is actually not the case if you take the teams that are they work a little bit longer together. Not the best well-connected teams, but just a little bit longer than like 3 days, for example. So they need a little bit more time. Why? Because when you go always with the notion that this is not optimal for me, but this might be how stress is shown for them. And this gives you much more empathy because you, from the start, you think that the person is very different. So the stress might show very differently from their part, from their side. So, and this is why sometimes in multicultural teams, there are actually much less emotional conflict. Uh, it's just like a small note. Why does it work? Why everyone, but probably you've already heard this, like why everyone said that we have to name our emotions. Apart from the fact that we rarely treat each other with empathy, and this is a very empathy thingy that we do. Uh, that's why people get drawn to you when you do this, and you create very meaningful connections that help you very much to understand what's going on, what is the state of a project, why is the person performing well or not well, how to help them, how to get the project going faster and better and solve the problems. Uh, the other part is that we all are taught to suppress our emotions at work. Like you can have a number of things said like oh sorry you can now you have a number of things said like uh, you should keep your emotions out of your work. Emotions are not good for your career. A stressed person like or a person that is too taking too much pours too much emotions into things is like unreliable, etc., etc. And that's why we are told to be composed all the time. That's why we don't like when emotions are pouring out of us. But the problem is that an actual composed behavior that will not result in burning out comes not from suppressing emotions, but from understanding yourself, from understanding your state. It's when you understand that you're upset and tired and stressed, you can do the best work you could under the influence of upsetness, tiredness, and stress. If you uh, keep negating that you're upset and tired and stressed, you will burn out, you will burst out, you will have a conflict, an argument, etc., etc. And there is a psychological factor then when we talk about our emotions, we decrease emotional intensity because we see a path forward. And that is why the whole thing of labeling the emotions works, as even and especially in the working environment also. So this is what you might get from this, like if you put this emotional technique in at work. It's like if you just put something along the lines that are you concerned, are you do you have anxiety. Look, this is might not be the best words for for a work environment. Are you concerned, do you do you anticipate a problem and and you're afraid it might surprise us later. Like whatever you say that has this emotional labeling that another person understands, you will most likely see the actual state of them, and it will be resolved without going into this conflict that you uh, have in your future, and the connection is broken, and empathy doesn't. You don't even want to give more empathy to this person who is always like upset, etc. So this is not something you would want to do, and if you use this emotional labeling, you can do this. I obviously understand that most likely you would say, "Oh no, that's too simple. Like no way, all of the emotional conflicts that we have are resolved just like this." And you're right. There is a little bit more to the story. Let's see. So, as I told you, the most important thing is to find the right emotional labeling tools that work in your environment. And cultural intelligence, which is a buzzer now in in any network, in any multicultural network I work with, is like cultural intelligence. We have to like before that it was all about emotional intelligence. Now it's all about cultural intelligence. But then again, instead of just talking how great it is, I will show you how to apply it in the same specific scenario, or at least a very similar one. So let's understand that again, we need to use context recognition, cultural difference and corporate difference. And again, I'm telling you that the cultural difference, like a person from, for example, an Asian background would react differently from a person from European background. Uh, we would think that there's a huge difference, but a person from a startup background would react much very differently to the same work related problem than a person with a completely corporate background, even though they might have the same education and the same culture. And again, the difference in education might come in handy in understanding that. So we would just put it as a context recognition. So these are some things. It might be related to culture. It might be related to the state of the company. Corporations are very different also. If you take one European corporation and one American corporation, you might see a lot of differences there too. So we need to take that into account. So we would think about it as a context recognition. So again, we are used now to suppress our emotions most of the time. This is rarely you can see leaders or even companies that are show us your emotions, tell us about your emotions, etc. Like be open, be sincere, please tell us if you're upset, please tell us. Like, as an employees, they always ask for emotions from customers because we understand that is where the money lies, but somehow we don't do the same thing with our workers. So these are the ideas for suppressing our emotions that are very deeply rooted in our core, and we have to work around them to not trigger a worst case scenario where a person thinks that if you if you even hint of the fact that I have some kind of emotion, you would think me like unreliable or weak or not ambitious enough or etc. Like or not competent enough. Like emotion having emotions is not competent enough. So if we have this, we have to be very careful in applying our emotional techniques. So again, if you think carefully, emotions are never the problem. Emotions themselves in the work environment are never the problem because if they were, nobody would want to hire a very motivated person because motivation is all about emotions. I'm eager, I'm enthusiastic, I'm excited, I want to like I'm hopeful for the better future. This is all motivation. We all look for motivated people, for people who can self motivate, for people who are optimistic, and you cannot have only positive emotions without the negative ones. So if you have a person who is positive, optimistic, motivated, at some point in life they will be unmotivated and depressed and very stressed about their work. So emotions themselves are not the problem. Our way of handling emotions obviously is, and the first uh, tool that we talked about is one way of handling these emotions. So what to do to make the full use of what I told you about emotional labeling with the not only EQ but cultural intelligence also. So the first thing is actually you sit and make a list of what are the emotional labels do you know. Like believe me, you would not get past 10 if you don't use internet. Then you use internet and you understand there is about 100 at least. And this is a like a very open eye-opening experience. And then you go through all of these emotions and ask yourself, which emotions I am comfortable sharing out loud, especially in my work environment. So you would see that some of the barriers are within you. You do not see how you can say, I'm sad about the project that didn't go through. The other part is look around, see your coworkers, try to analyze, sort of maybe sometimes like in somewhere in a conversation that has nothing to do with work, see what are the emotions they recognize and they accept and they do not like falter and do not look at you as a weird person. So you would try to apply what is the set of emotions, like what is recognized and what is good for yourself, for the company, for the culture of the company, for different cultures in this company. And first, you can try it out in a non-confrontational dialogue, like in small talk, on a break, when you talk about something like with the person about their weekend, etc. So, and there you can see if a person responds with more information, more positive, more trusting communication. This means probably you would be able to use the same thing with them in a work conversation too, and even with a heated conversation. So because they reply positively to this. Uh, I've talked about emotions for a very long time now. And let's see what to do with non emotional conflicts because even though emotions are a huge part of human life, it's not all there is because we are not only emotional creatures. So let's say you've tackled the toughest task and now your stakeholder says, well, finally, see, it wasn't that difficult. This is the same Joe we talked about. You probably already don't like Joe, but let's bear with him. And I have another poll for you. Here's this poll, and here it is also like I don't say problem. That's not a problem. He said some comment that it's his it's his opinion. He's entire he can have it. I have nothing in common with it. Or this is Joe. I don't like Joe because Joe says snarky things. But I can bring the problem because, for example, it's a boss or it's like it doesn't go anywhere if I bring the problem. What would I even say? Like it's unclear. There is a problem, but it's unclear what to do. And the other one is I will bring it and I will provide feedback. And if you're up to it, you can even try and tell us what would be the feedback you would tell this person. Because again, this is one thing to know that hey, this is a problem. I have to bring it up, and the other one is to perform the actual bringing it up. So I'm very interested in your let's see in your words. Okay, where is this poll? uh, let's see. So I'm really interested in what would you do in this situation. So I'll give you just another minute to find the poll and or if you don't see how to use the poll, you can just put a comment into the chat. Like I would obviously take option 3 or even say it here, but you might be like me, you might not be like me. While you're thinking, I will give you something to think about. So the third skill that is absolutely necessary to use in this setting, in the setting of multicultural teams, to have a better, like less conflictual nature, is behavior feedback. And what's oh yes, people are saying like, of course it's free. Why, Alexandra, you even asking this question? Of course it's free. That's why no one told you the answer. Thank you, Jamila. So what is different about the behavior feedback? Um, we used to thinking about feedback as a very practical, very useful tool uh, in tweaking our processes or even creating our processes. And now I'm saying you that the communication is a process also. So uh, before we put Joe in the category of never speak to you again and never give you a Christmas card because you're, well, Joe, let's say that the common problem for multicultural teams is that they don't know their comment or their behavior or something they said or something they didn't say is a problem. And this is why sometimes like we have a huge misunderstanding over nothing because we are a multicultural team. So the why I encourage feedback and especially why I encourage it as soon as the situation occurs, like as soon as you can after the situation occurs, even if the problem is small. Sometimes people come to me and they say, well, in such a scenario, I would let it slide. But if a problem keeps coming back, I will still say like I will say something. And after 5 or 4 cases like this, it would be very weird if you finally said something because it keeps happening. It's already a habit. Another person already thinks that it's a good habit, like they can do this, that it's okay for you. And it's much more difficult to change later on when it's already in this established habit of communication or talking to each other than at the very first stage. And if you don't bring it up, obviously it's an unresolved conflict that will be seen, that will be felt, and team efficiency will definitely struggle with this. Uh, it's so seen and so visible that if Joy is someone who can affect your layoff or promotion, well, it will affect the layoff and promotion. So you do not want that. You want to use behavior feedback. And I see that there's not much time left, so I will go quickly through this. So here are three most important principles about behavior feedback that differ a little bit from the traditional feedback that we already received. So the first one is highlighting facts. Of course, we want to highlight facts, not interpretations. But what does it mean in the case of communication? Some people that are that see different behavior that they don't like from a colleague, for example, they would say, that was a little rude. Could you be a little nicer? Or that was a little unprofessional, or like a little harsh. We want you to use a different kind of words, etc., etc. These are all interpretations. You might be understood, you might be not. So I'm suggesting highlighting specific facts, like what didn't happen, or what was said, specific words, not rephrasing, not the impression from the words, but specific words to bring the light to the problem itself. Maybe it was a specific word, maybe it was a specific, like the whole comment, or the specific words. Like as I told you, it was a difficult task, but he said, "See, that wasn't that tough," and you're like, "Yeah, actually, it was." You said it wasn't that tough when the problem was difficult, and I don't like being told that it wasn't that tough. So you have to bring the intention back to this fact. And this is exactly why you have to do it as fast as possible, because if you wait a month or even 2 weeks or even a week, probably everyone but you will forget what was said. The other part is show the path forward clearly. We don't usually do that with behavior feedback. We just say, "Hey, it was nice," or like, "Hey, could you phrase it a little differently?" This is actually a better instruction, like of a path forward. But I would even try to broaden your horizon, so you can ask or suggest something, like, "We do it like this. Could you please tell it like this, or do not tell it at all?" You can ask if you don't know, like, oh, obviously there is a common trait that is an upbringing of all the managers. You can only come with the solution and not with a question. So when you don't know what to do, we don't come, we don't give a feedback. But instead of giving a solution in case of a behavior situation of the behavior communication conflict, you can ask questions. "I didn't like that. I understand where you're coming from, but here are your words and I didn't like them. What could we do in the future to resolve this?" And sometimes, like when you absolutely, completely sure that this is not an ask, this is not a request, this is a demand, that in my company, in my team, if you're in a position to say that, right? In my company, in my team, there would be nothing like this. It is not a suggestion. I will always suggest to be say clearly that if you want to, if something is so clearly impacts the person in a way that you might get fired if you say that, this is an important information that should be brought to the person. So, and the third one is very simple. Whatever you say, that is a dialogue. Behavior feedback is always a dialogue. You can ask for a feedback on you. Your understanding of the situation again can be wrong, and there could be other factors. So especially if it's an ask or not a demand, you should be prepared to have a negotiation about what should be done. This is why I suggest to do more with questions. So that is it. Here are the three skills I suggest to you with the specific instruments on how to apply them in a working environment for global communication for multicultural teams. It's EQ, cultural intelligence, and behavior feedback. And I think that is it for me. Thank you so much for being here and for listening. Here again are my contacts on LinkedIn. I would be happy to have any questions answered now or later, maybe on LinkedIn. And thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Alexandra. Any question? Uh, I check Q and chat. There is no question, but I like to ask one question to you, Alexandra. In the multicultural environment, how can leaders effectively balance emotional intelligence and with cultural intelligence to maintain both empathy and respect for diverse norms? Yeah.
Oh, that is a great question. So I would say you would definitely need the uh, sort of have two radars at the same time. So the first, rather, the first like scan, not the two scans at the same time. The first scan would be about emotional situations. So, and if
Mhm.
you're not sure how emotions are presented in different people, like for example, there's a lot of different culture individuals in your team, and you don't know like what do they look like when they are upset, do they even get upset? So I don't know how they look like, how they present their emotions, or even if they do this at all, but I can look for the situation. And usually the situation is like if a person is met with a surprise, and especially if a surprise is not great, there bound to be some emotion. Like we were waiting for this to be a success, it wasn't. Emotion. We were waiting to approve this budget, we didn't. Emotion, etc., etc. So you can look for context clues, what might be an emotion. And then the other scan is for, again, for context, for wording. Like you apply preferably in advance, like these techniques that I told you, like you would talk, you will small talk, you will have this small conversations where you try out different labelings for this, and you ask the questions in outside of the conflict situation. Like you can have this conversation very breezy, like easy breezy during breakfast or lunch or something, like, or 5 minutes warm up, like, hey, how do you like normally deal with it, like in your previous culture, like what was the procedure to use when a company was coming to a huge loss, for example, or the project was a failure. What did you do? Like, what did your manager say? What did you say? How did you feel? Like, etc. So you talk about it before, and this is how you like take the information out of them. And then when you see the situation that's presented, like the situation that is of use of uh, emotional intelligence, you already have the information to use there, and hopefully it will help you resolve the problem that's in front of you. Did
Thank
I
you.
answer your question?
I think we should know cultural norms where we are working and which country we work. We should know. We should aware of cultural norms. Then it may have to balance emotional intelligence and also cultural intelligence, I think.
Yeah,
Mhm.
of course. The idea is that mostly in multicultural teams, especially if it's like always talked about, people are more keen to share the information. Like you say, you should know, but obviously you're not from the culture. You can't know everything. So it's common sense that you ask questions. It's difficult for them to answer questions clearly when the situation is already high level, like stress, but when
Mhm.
it's just a casual conversation, it's much easier to take this information, and this would be a great help for you in the future.
Thank you. And another question, feedback mechanism. Is there any method for sustainability of feedback? I mean, how can we ensure that this is applied consistently? Feedback mechanism.
You
Is there any way, any method?
you mean
I
consistently,
mean,
like between among the
feedback.
team members?
Yeah, feedback. Uh, highlight feedback about this situation, not in interpretations. I mean, how
Mhm.
can we sustainability? I mean, how can we be sure that it's applied consistently in the team?
Well, if
And
you're in a
we are-
position, Mhm. Usually if you are in a position of a leader, like a project, sorry, a project manager, product manager, maybe like some team lead position, you always lead by example. So when you share this like with the person, like, hey, here's my feedback. The one more thing that you can do is like after this dialogue occurred, you would say, hey, like I gave you some feedback and I'm so happy that we could resolve this. In exchange, like if you ever have as some kind of a problem like what we just discussed, I would love you to do the same, like to come to me or the other person with this feedback, and like hopefully you can resolve it as easy as it was for us now. So like you first promote it with example, then you encourage it with actual. You also can do this. This is not only for leaders. This is all for other people too, and well, also like and sometimes ask questions like if you see that at some point a conflict might have been resolved with this technique, but it wasn't. Like people were, there was a moment where they could just talk out the misunderstanding, but they didn't. It's your job to go and try understand why didn't they do this and how to help them in the future to do this from the very start. Like he did something or he said something, and like and if you didn't like this, what what stopped you from giving the feedback, like, and what could we do so that the next time you would give this feedback. So this is not about who's to blame for the past mistakes. It's more about what should we do to move forward, and this should be very clear for all the team. So the feedback is not about blaming, it's about how we should move forward. I think that would establish some consistency if you are consistent with this.
Yeah, it's good. Thank you so much. Any question?
I see that, yeah, people are eagerly waiting for the break now, I guess.
Okay. Thank you for the session.
Thank you
I'm
so much. So glad to be here. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye bye.